results over the past 3 years, a little over 3 years. My sobriety date's August 5th, 2014, and I came in here an absolute broken disaster of a young man that just had no idea where I was going in life or how I'd ever get my feet under me. And I didn't think I could ever experience a sober way of life and be happy, but I was wrong, thankfully. Definitely through the grace of God and through the fellowship and the people in this room, it's just been a heck of a journey over the last 3 years. Just been amazing. And I guess tonight, what I'm supposed to do, as Carl was reading, is tell in a general way my story. You know, what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like now. And I got y'all like a low bottom story or a high bottom story? Which one do you want me to tell? Low? You like the low bottom? All right, me too. Me too. I like the low bottom. I like the ones that people just drag along the bottom for a while. That's kind of mine. Well, I'll get rolling. I had a great childhood. I was very, very, very fortunate growing up. My family, we had everything we needed, everything we wanted. I had two parents that were that walked the walk. That really were great role models. My dad, if I could be like anybody on earth, I'd be like my dad. He's a loving man who is very supportive, and he is consistent with what he does, and he's a man of faith. And if I could be like him, or if I could have set out to be like him, I would have done it from the very beginning. But he's definitely one of my role models, and he was that way all the way through my childhood. So I came up around here. I lived in Carthage, North Carolina for some of my elementary and middle school and most my high school years. Moved around intermittently, but most of the time we were from here. I didn't notice too much going wrong when I was a kid. I loved to play baseball and didn't really take school too seriously, but I loved the camaraderie of baseball, and maybe I was a little distant from other people. I didn't really have any true core group of friends, but other than that, I had basically a normal childhood. Got through high school, and my folks, it wasn't any doing of mine, but they thought I might ought to go to college, so they kind of pushed me to enroll in a few colleges, and I ended up getting into NC State, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I just had no idea. My idea of a good life was we had these four-wheelers and Suzuki Samurais and Jeep Wranglers and stuff that we'd work on during the week and get them ready, and then on the weekend we'd take them up to Uwharrie National Forest and go four-wheeling in the woods. And it was a good time. And we'd break them all down and tear them up and come back home and fix them for the next week. And my perfect existence would be sitting out there in that metal building welding parts on a Suzuki Samurai or a Jeep Wrangler for the rest of my life, and having a couple of little core group of friends hanging out, and that was it. But fortunately, my folks, they thought, I might as well go to school, get a little further education. They paid for it. So I had started to, I guess, isolate, you might call it, in high school when I first heard about people starting to drink and get high or mess around with that kind of stuff, and I really didn't want any part of it. My mother's in recovery, and I had seen the effects of alcoholism from a kid's perspective, and what I saw was a lot of dishonesty. I'd look into my mom's eyes and sometimes and just ask her, "Have you been drinking?" And she'd say, "No, son, I swear I haven't been. And there would be a bottle of Jack Daniels laying on the floor, and I'd just say, "No way. How can you tell me that? I know you've been drinking." And then just as a kid caught in the middle of that, I'd made a resolution. I'm never trying alcohol. I don't need it. No need for it in my life. So I ended up at NC State, and like I said, I started to isolate. I didn't really feel the partying type of thing that much, and a lot of the guys that I went to high school with were up there, and they were partying. They said, "Seth, you're just missing out on this whole college experience, man. We feel bad for you. We're going out here. We're going to frat parties, sorority parties. We're having a good time. We're playing beer pong and going to football games and tailgating and all this kinds of stuff. And you just go back to Carthage every weekend. You go back to your little safe zone, and we're up here having a great time. And you really need to think about giving this thing a shot, man. Enjoying some of your college experience." And I just say, "Nah, just not really interested in it. You guys have fun. I love you, but I'm not really interested in that stuff." So I was 20 years old before I experienced the effect produced by alcohol. 20 years old. And the way it happened was as I went through college, my resolution not to drink or not to ever have anything to do with drugs or alcohol got weaker and weaker. And sooner or later, a party was just right down the road from my house here in Whistler Pines at Zach Adams' house. And they said, "Come on over, Seth. We're having a great time. There's 50 or 60 people over here. We got a couple kegs over here. People are playing pool. There's tons of girls and guys, and everybody's hanging out. It's just a great time. You got to come over." So I went to this place knowing that I wouldn't fit in. I had developed some kind of social anxiety in my 20s. I didn't know where it came from, but even walking into a Walmart or a grocery store full of people, I would just have this anxiety just stir up inside of me. I don't know where it was from. And talk about at NC State, some of the classes I was in were 250 people. And I just felt so uncomfortable around large groups of people. Don't know where it came from, but I felt irritable. I felt just a true anxiety to my core around large groups of people. I had seen my other buddies be able to go out and talk to people and meet new friends and carry on conversations with them, but it seemed like whenever I tried to meet somebody new or talk to somebody I didn't know, I'd just get fumbled up over my words. I couldn't make sense out of it, and I was overwhelmed by self-centered fear is what it was. I didn't know that at the time, but I was completely overwhelmed by it. And I just couldn't build any effective relationships besides the ones I had through high school. And so they're at this party, and they said, "There's all kinds of guys and girls over here. Come on over, hang out." And I was nervous, and they're never going to let me live this one down. I'll go over there and just hang tight for 5 or 10 minutes and then jet out. So I went over to this party, and just walking up to a house party like that with cars all down the street, I was getting nervous. I mean, you could see it from a mile away what it was, but I was just getting nervous, and I could hear the conversation and stuff coming from around the back of the house. And I kind of walked around there, and sure enough, there was 60 or 80 people spread out all over the place, guys, girls, everybody hanging out. It was just looked like everybody was having a great time, but I had this intense fear and anxiety already inside me, just wound tight as a rubber band. And I walked down there, and I said hey to Jacob and Brian and Zach and a few of my buddies, and I decided I was pretty much going to jet out of there at my first chance. And what I did was I sat down on some steps and just kind of observed for a minute, sat back and observed before I was going to get out of there. And I was just telling myself, man, this was a horrible mistake. Why did you come down here? You don't know these people. None of these people want you here. Don't even talk to these girls or these guys that you don't know. They're not going to accept you. I mean, just a whirlwind of thoughts going through my head about how I didn't belong in this place and that I could never integrate into this type of situation with all these people hanging out at this party. Completely dead sober. And then my buddy Jake comes over and he says, "Here, man, here's a solo cup full of Coors Light, keg beer. Drink this thing down and just trust me. Just drink it." And I'm sitting down on these steps and I'm just thinking, man, how much worse could it get? I drank that thing down, and I experienced the most profound change I had ever experienced in my entire life with the experience I had with this party. All of a sudden, it was such a welcoming place. All of a sudden, I had confidence. I was overwhelmed with self-confidence, and this hostile environment that I had lived in and that I had just been experiencing 5 minutes ago completely changed when I felt the effect produced by that alcohol. I had such a warm sensation going down. It was absolutely amazing. That night, I didn't get in any trouble. This is what happened to me that night. This is on page 151. This is a vision for you. It says, "For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good." And that's what I had. I can't hardly describe it any better than that. I felt that life was good. And I knew instantly that what I had observed with respect to alcoholism, that I wasn't an alcoholic. Because that's not an alcoholic to me, what I just read. That's a normal person. And that's the experience I had with alcohol the first time I drank it. And I knew right then that this was going to be a very important part of my life going forward. and that I couldn't possibly be an alcoholic because I wasn't falling down, I wasn't slurring my words, I wasn't making a fool of myself, I didn't black out, I didn't get any DUIs, I wasn't sleeping under a bridge. The list goes on and on and on. I knew from my own circumstances that I could not be an alcoholic. So I just started to drink as carelessly as anybody else would have that would have had that experience. I mean, from that moment on, it was my last, that would have been my last semester up there at school, and I don't know if this is normal, but some of my experience with football games up there at school was I loved to go to the tailgate, and then everybody would start going into the game. And I would say, why would anybody go in the game? There's all these coolers out here that people just left to be raided. And I might just be solo by myself out there, just going cooler, drinking that whole damn game, lost, couldn't find the truck to save my life at the end of it, people having to come pick me up. And so alcohol did something for me completely different. It affected me in a way that was just absolutely profound. And I began to build the weapon, as Bill said, that would in time turn like a boomerang and cut me to ribbons. So I'll fast forward a little bit. So my dad made a few calls. He was working for a big construction company. He got my foot in the door with this outfit called Fluor Corporation. Build power plants all over the world. He got my foot in the door. Here I am, 22, budding alcoholic. I get assigned to a coal-fired power plant down in College Station, Texas. I'm living with another young guy. And somewhere in, I guess, this would have been about 2 years after I graduated. And this time I'm down there in College Station. My drinking has assumed more serious proportions. I'm drinking now through the week. And at some point I crossed the line, the invisible line, the proverbial line that people cross into alcoholism. I don't believe I started out an alcoholic. I can't see it. I think I could have stopped, as the book says, but I didn't have a good enough reason to stop. But somewhere along the lines, the things that Dr. Sook was observed after he was trying to get Bill and Bob going in the beginning, and he said that if a person be a true alcoholic, once they start drinking and they feel that warm ease and comfort that I felt at that first party, and that good feeling of that beer or that wine or that whiskey or whatever it is, that they'll have little control over the amount they're going to take. That's essentially what he said. And he said another thing that he observed was that if a person is sober or absent for a period of time, they will become irritable, restless, and discontent unless they can again experience a sense of ease and comfort that comes from taking a few drinks. And I started to experience those very two things. I didn't know what it was called at the time. I just thought I was rationalizing myself into drinking more, but I started to experience those things. And what it looked like was this. We would get off work on a Wednesday, and just normal Wednesday, and about 4:30, right before 5 would ring in, I would have this feeling of knowing exactly where I was going at 5 o'clock. There was a store at the end of the construction site that sold beers. We were going to go down there and get 2 24-ounce beers, and I was going to drink those on the way home. And on the way home, I'd talk to Aaron, and I'd convince him that it's piano bar tonight. We'll go over there, we'll get dinner, and we'll have a couple Coors Lights and some barbecue wings. And he's going to try to talk you out of it, but just tell him we're going to be home by 9:30 or 10. And I'd convince to just tell him, man, come on, let's go down there. And he'd say, no, remember what happened last night? We didn't come home till 2 in the morning, and I ain't doing it again. I'm not showing up to work hungover again. But eventually I'd convince him and say, let's just go down there. Let's just go have a couple drinks. And I'm believing it the whole time. We're just going to go down there and hang out and have a couple drinks and maybe meet some people, and then that's it. We'll get home in a normal hour. Well, what would typically happen was we'd go down and have a few drinks, and the next thing I know, the bartender's saying, it's last call. It's 1:55. It's the last call for alcohol. And an intense panic would come over me. What do you mean it's the last call? It can't be the last call. We got to get some more booze, I would just, almost a physical sensation of panic and fear would come upon me and say, it can't be last call. Or somebody would say, the keg is tapped. What do you mean the keg's tapped? I mean, I couldn't fathom stopping once I started. Now, Dr. Silkworth observed that, but I had no idea what I was experiencing. What I was experiencing was called the phenomenon of craving in the book. And it's common to all chronic alcoholics. And I was experiencing that phenomenon of craving that I didn't know it at the time. So what would happen eventually is I would continue to drink, and my body would continue to drink even when my mind would start to cut off. So I'd start to experience blackouts. And I had no idea what was going on or how that was happening. All I know is I'd wake up the next morning a lot of times, and I'd try to piece together the night. And I had a 2006 Chevy Silverado 4-door, leather interior, Z71, awesome truck. Man, I just took care of this thing. I detailed this thing up nice. I had it looking sweet all the time. I'd go out in the parking lot and try to piece together the night and make sure that my truck got home, and there's my truck sitting parked across 2 parking spots in the apartment complex, all the windows down, Coors Lights or whatever sitting in the center console, and a streak of puke going down the side. The driver's side. And I said, who the heck threw up on the truck? Left the keys in the ignition and the windows down. This is asinine. I'm going in to ask Aaron if he did this. I'd go in there and say, Aaron, who in the heck drove us home last night? He'd say, you did. You drove us home last night. What do you mean? You drove us home last night. And that would happen time and time again. I couldn't piece together the night. An earmark of an alcoholic sensation is drinking into blackouts. And I'd start to experience that so often that I can't even tell you how much. But I would start to experience blackouts. Sooner or later, the consequences started to build up, and the same company that at first I had started out with, and I could read those words, the conviviality, companionship. I was drinking with the guys at work, and we were having a pretty good time. Started to say, Seth, you're just not worth much to us like you're coming in. You know, you're coming in here 10, 15 minutes late, just hungover, you're smelling like booze during the middle of the week. We can't hardly use you like this. And Aaron, my roommate, poor fellow, man, I cared about this man deeply, and I wanted to see him succeed too, but I don't know if he was alcoholic or not, but certainly hanging out with me didn't help, and he ended up losing his job. And it scared me enough to try to put the reins around this alcoholism for the first time. This would be my first attempt. And what it looked like was when I tried to stop drinking, it was like somebody sucked all the color out of my life. It was like somebody took all those things, that sense of ease and comfort, the confidence to talk to somebody else, the ability to socialize in the evenings or just hang out, the ability to feel comfortable at a pool party. It was like someone took all that out of my life, and I tried to white knuckle it for a little while. I didn't last long, but what would happen would be one of the guys that I worked with, I had noticed that he had somehow slowed back, pulled the throttle back on his drinking. I didn't know how he was doing it, but he had slowed down his drinking somehow. Me and him used to get a half gallon of Tito's vodka and drink it down in 3 or 4 hours as we ate dinner or something and had a party at his house. Well, we're over there one night in particular, and he's just sipping on this one vodka tonic forever, and I know it's not. He's got something else going on because he's just lit up, man. And he's milking this one little drink, and I know he's got something going on, and I just can't hardly stand it anymore because I'm trying to be sober and be responsible. And I say, man, Brian, you got to tell me what it is you got going on. Help me out, man. I'm dying over here trying not to drink, not get hungover, not keep running this train off the rails. And he says, all right, man, come back here. And he takes me back to his bedroom, and he pulls out of his pocket 3 oxycodone and 30 milligram tablets. And he says, this has been my solution right here. This has slowed me down drinking so much. You know how we used to drink, Seth. We used to just drink liquor all night and black out, and the hangovers were terrible. This has helped me so much. And I'll be damned. He said, just take one of these, stop drinking. You're not going to slur your speech. Nobody's even going to know you're drunk. You're going to experience a euphoric effect like you've only experienced after 5 shots of Jack Daniels, and it's just going to be great. And sure enough, I took that thing, and he was right. He was right. I started to feel so good after a matter of 30 minutes that I just couldn't believe what I had been missing. And he was also right about the helping to stop or moderate my drinking. It was the first crutch that I had ever experienced, and it did help stop or moderate my drinking for a period of time. But in time, it was disclosed to me that this solution was far worse than my previous problem. My solutions are a lot of times worse than my problems, and this was one of them. And I'm not going to bore you with the next few months, but I will tell you that in my 26th year, still working for this company, knowing that my dad put his neck on the line to get me this job and want to do good for the family and do good for myself, and knowing this career could go anywhere in the world. The same outfit would to bring me up to a conference room on the 7th floor, their home office, and the HR people would be in there, and my boss and his boss would be in there, and they would say, "Seth, we don't know what's going on with you, but you're just not the employee we hired here. We want to give you a couple options. Here they are. Number one is, go get yourself some help. We're going to let you take a family medical leave of absence, up to 6 months, to get your feet back under you. We'll send you to any rehab in the United States. We'll pay for it in full. We'll pay you half your salary while you're gone. And in 6 months, or however long it takes, you come right back in and you get your job back in the position you've been in. We'll act like it never happened." All I heard was, give up the only solution you've ever found that makes you feel reasonably comfortable in life, drinking and partying and having a good time. That's all I heard. Give up the one thing that means so much. I wouldn't, at the time, it didn't sound like, I couldn't have made these rationalizations, or I couldn't have put these words to it, but what I heard was give up. I was not willing to make that sacrifice. So they presented a second option, and it was get the cardboard box, pack your stuff up in it, and hit the road. I didn't have anywhere to go, but I could not pull the trigger on trying to change my way of life to save this career, to save this, just putting this dirt on my dad's name of this kid that tried to get a job here, did pretty good at first, but then just ran it into the gutter. I couldn't do it, regardless of the consequences. I could not imagine giving up drinking and partying. Couldn't imagine it. So here I am, 26 years old. I'm back in Carthage, North Carolina, in my parents' basement. I'm working at Southeastern Tool and Die, grinding parts for $9 an hour after the welder gets done with them. He gets some splatter on them. I grind thousands of parts, hundreds of thousands. I'm completely physically and mentally and emotionally addicted, and I need a substance of some sort, whether it's beer, alcohol, wine, liquor, dope, it don't matter. I need something in my system 24 hours a day just to feel comfortable. As I said, my folks, they raised me to be a considerate, humble, honest, a young man with good character traits. They raised me with a religious background, and they raised me with good morals on what was right or wrong. But when I became alcoholic, I started to break all those boundaries that had been set up, and those moral codes that were really deep in my fabric, but I couldn't adhere to them anymore. And the guilt and the shame was almost unbearable when I would do some things to double cross my folks or my friends or the people that loved me and cared about me. God bless the Al-Anons and the people that care about us and stick by our sides through all this hell that we put y'all through. God, I know for a fact I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for my folks and my family and my friends. But I'd start to break every rule that I ever knew. My folks had to make what must have been one of the most painful declarations they've ever made, which was, "Seth, we love you, but you are not welcomed at our house. You're not welcome anywhere near our property. You're not welcome at our place of business. You are absolutely not welcome around us whatsoever in any form or fashion. And if you do come to the house or are found on our property, we've already notified the sheriff's department that they are to arrest you for trespassing. We love you, but we just can't have you around anymore." And that hurt, and I didn't understand it at the time. I do now. Thank God my mother was in recovery and started hearing words like enabling and love them from a distance and not enable me and let me sit in that basement and just keep running these rails and sink the whole boat, you know what I mean? But they put me out, and I had a friend in Montana at that point in time. He had a little metal business going on, and he was a good friend, high school friend, and he said, "Seth, I know you run your life off the ground, and I know you're in a lot of trouble. I got this little outfit out here. You can come work for me. You can get your wheels back under you and get the tracks back under you and lift yourself up and be the man that you started out being in life." I said, "Yeah, man, that sounds great. I got to get out of this mess. This mess around Moore County is just terrible. I know all these people around here, and I just can't pull myself out of it. I need a geographic change." That was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I would experience a hell in Montana. If you've ever been there, don't go there drunk. That is an awful place to be drunk. I swear the temperatures are just phenomenally cold. But I went out there and the same thing that always happened, the same thing that Dr. Silkworth observed. I became irritable, restless, and discontent within a matter of days. I would long for the ease and comfort of a few drinks. And I would find myself down at the bar taking shots of whiskey the second or third week I'm there. I'm back to my original. I'm trying to find some friends. I'm trying to hang out. I'm searching for something. I'm longing for unity. But I'm down there, and this I would have my first attempt at treatment. And I went to treatment in a place called Spirit Lodge in Texas, just kind of a nice outfit, nice treatment center, nothing against it. I wasn't ready. I went down there, I learned a lot about alcoholism and addiction. They had PhDs come talking to us about experiments they did with rats. And they'd put cocaine in a water bottle in the rats thing over here, and they'd put food and water and other rats and his rat cousins and friends and everybody else over here. And they'd get that one rat addicted to cocaine, and he'd just go over this rat water bottle with his cocaine in it. He'd put his foot on the pedal all day long until he starved to death drinking that water. He wouldn't hang out with his rat friends. He wouldn't go make love to his rat girlfriend or anything like that. He'd just press that bottle of that cocaine water and drink it. And I said, I'm the damn rat, man. I've been this rat all my life, pushing this damn cocaine water bottle over here. And I said, that's it. All I got to do is just not go to that water bottle, not get re-addicted, and I just go back and hang out with my friends. It's all good. And I didn't know about the mental obsession that would return, and I thought, this is crazy. They want me to go to more AA meetings. I've been to 35 since I've been in here. Lord knows they want me to go to another one when I get out. This is terrible. I can't do that. I'm not willing to do it. Halfway house, heck no. Recovery home, no. I've got things to do. I got people to please. Couldn't do it. Couldn't submit to it. I was drunk the week I got out. And over the next few years, from 2012 to the time I got sober, or the darkest 2 years I've ever experienced in my life, I can't make a whole lot of sense out of them. I don't know. I know exactly why they happened, because I'm a rooted, self-centered person who thinks I need to feel good every second of every day. And I sought a drug or a drink to provide that feeling every second of every day, regardless of who it harmed. That's how I ended up in this situation. But what would happen would be I would start to get in lots of trouble. I knew I had a serious problem. I'd go to treatment a few more times intermittently over the next few years. I would fail continuously. Sometimes the mental obsession would be so strong that 12 days into treatment, I would just say, I can't do this, and I would run out of the place, in a transient state. I had no home. I had nowhere to go to. I was just a street walking derelict. And I would run out of the place in that state and not know where to go, and just find myself doing the same thing I was used to doing, walking the streets of Billings, Montana. Just walking the streets day and night. You see some people walking the streets around here every now and then. In some form or another, that was me. That was what I did. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a license. I didn't have a home to go to. But my whole existence centered around getting to that next one. What would happen would be I would get in some trouble here and there. I would start going to jail more frequently, being arrested. I found out that most of the people I hung out with were in there anyway, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. And we'd get into jail and we'd talk about how we're going to beat the man the next time and not get in trouble and come up with new ways to get around this whole thing, or drink with control and not get in trouble. And we'd get out and we'd get right back in somehow. And I had surrendered to the fact that as dark as it is, that the rest of my existence was just going to be in, out. Maybe take an overdose shot. Maybe go back in. I just didn't. I had given up the hope of ever seeing my family and my friends again. I was 2,300 miles away from them. I had tried to leave Montana on numerous occasions, couldn't get the wherewithal to do it. And I had submitted to the fact that my whole existence was going to be this. I didn't think it would be much longer, that I'd be living, breathing, talking, but I figured that the rest of it was just going to be in and out. I had surrendered to the fact that any life worth living, a life of sobriety, a life reunited with my family and friends, was completely out the window. So I'm walking, doing my thing, and I got arrested on some charges, and the plea bargain from the public defender, the best thing he could do is say, 3 years Montana State Prison. That's all we can do. It's the very best we can do. 3 years Montana State Prison. You take this plea. I'm trying to work with you. We'll get you shipped off to Deer Lodge. You might have to do 2. You come back. Okay, all right. I get to the court for sentencing. That walked in shackles, and God bless my mom and dad. They were there. They were there in Billings. They traveled out there. My dad took off a week from work. They traveled out there, and they were in the courtroom. And as I walk in, I see him. I just completely break down in tears. I had no idea I'd ever see him again. I hadn't spoken to him in months and months. I just had no idea I'd ever see him. I love my parents from the bottom of my heart. There's a love in here for my folks and my family that I can't express in words, and I always loved them. I just didn't think I'd ever see them again. And I was just so elated that they were there, and the reason they were there, the judge said, Mr. Bennett, we don't usually have people with this opportunity that you have, but your parents are out here on your behalf to try to get you some help, try to get you some treatment. And we know that you've been offered this 3 years in Montana State Prison, and that's still on the table. That's still here for you if you want it. But we've come up with another option for you. We're going to offer you an interstate compact probation back to North Carolina. You're going back there with your folks. It takes about 30 days to go through. You go back there, you get some treatment, you do probation for 3 years, and you get your life back on the rails. Which one do you want to do? The prison? Or to go to treatment? I want to do that one, of course. I'm just elated again. I can't believe it. This is my chance, this is my finally, I'm getting a break. I'm really going to do this. They gave me this document right here. And it's a conditional release document. And this was the deal, essentially. Your parents are going to get you a place in an extended stay out of town. You have it for 30 days. This interstate compact might take 2 weeks to get pushed through, but eventually it's going to get pushed through. We're going to get you on a plane and get you a treatment out in North Carolina. Just like that. It's just plain and simple. You got everything you need out there, and here's the conditions. My residence must be approved by probation officer. It was. I will not leave my assigned district. I will seek and maintain employment or just hang tight at the hotel. I will personally report to probation officer. I will not use, own, or possess firearms. I'll obtain permission before purchasing an automobile. I'm saying, yeah, I'm signing all these things, SB, SB, SB. And then it says, I will not possess or use illegal drugs. I will not be in control of or under the influence of illegal drugs, nor will I have in my possession any drug paraphernalia. And I kind of signed that one. The next thing, it gets even more serious. I will not possess or consume intoxicants or alcohol. I will submit to breathalyzer testing or bodily fluid testing as requested by my probation or parole officer. I knew right then I wasn't going to be able to do it. I signed it, but in my head I knew this is going to be impossible. What I'm faced with is impossible. Needless to say, I signed every one. They released me, and I have a couple weeks to wait at this hotel. As soon as my parents leave and kiss me goodbye and get back on the plane, this thoughts start coming through. Call your old buddies. You'd be ashamed to go out on one like you just went out on. That was just a little week, rendezvous, and you didn't even really get lit up good or have a good party. Call your buddies over here. Have a good party with them. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm just trying to fend it off. I may have lasted 30 minutes. I'm on the phone. Come on over. Hang out, man. I got this hotel out here in the downside of town. Come hang out. Bring the stuff. And here I am off the rails again. I'm under the phenomenon of craving again. I didn't know it at the time, but I had unleashed. This beast was out of the cage, and I couldn't get him back in. And the guilt and the shame and the remorse was overwhelming. Completely overwhelming. Here I had ruined it again. Y'all ever had people try to help you and just endlessly just try to push you to get better and provide assets for you and try to get your feet back under you and just continuously disappoint them over and over? That was me, and I couldn't bear it. So I started my walk again, the million-mile walk, man. Desperate. And I found my surrender experience sometime near the end of June in 2014, where I'm walking along the Yellowstone River, and I kneel down to kind of look over the edge, and the book talks about when we became alcoholic, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that God is either everything or He is nothing. What was our choice to be? I didn't know that that's what I was faced with. I didn't know I was crushed by a self-imposed crisis, but I was. And here it was. I can't keep drinking. I can't keep partying. And there's no way I can stop this thing. What's the only other option? And for me, it was, I might have to jump off this cliff or something. I just can't see another way out. I can't keep drinking, and I can't not drink. And I was crushed by it. So I fell down on my knees, and I'm looking over the edge, and I say, please help me, I can't live like this anymore. And from that very feeble prayer from a person who was not spiritual, who was not religious, who was living like there was absolutely no God, some things started to align that in hindsight, I can say for a fact, there is a higher power. There is a God. I said, I can't live like this. Please help me. Please help me. I didn't even address the God thing. I just said, please help me. Somebody stopped and said, sir, don't jump. Who can we call to help you out? I said, call Lorinda. Lorinda calls. Lorinda comes over there. She says, Seth, what's going on? Why did you do this again? I said, I have no idea. For the first time, I told the absolute truth. I have no idea why I keep running this thing off the rails. I have no idea why I can't just stay away. I have no idea why I can't just sit in an extended stay with all the food and drink and TV when I'm used to living homeless, walking around all night because I don't want to freeze to death. And here I am in this nice environment. Why can't I just sit there and stay away from alcohol? And for the first time I said, I don't know why I can't do it. She said, you want to call your folks? I said, sure, whatever. Called my folks. My mom says, Seth, why did you do that? Why? Why do you keep doing this? I said, Mom, I don't know. I'm just sobbing. I'm a complete emotional wreck. Looks like I'm having a mental breakdown or something. All I can say is I don't know, and all I can do is cry and tears coming out my eyes. I don't know why I keep doing this. She said, well, Seth, we talked to your probation officer. They're actually willing to give you another shot. If you go down there and turn yourself in, even though you signed all these things, even though you violated them all, even though they have every right just to send you straight off to the original deal that you had, maybe something worse, they're going to give you another shot. Somehow the next day I got up enough courage to get taken down there and dropped off at the probation office. They slapped handcuffs on me and sit me down. I said, sure enough, I knew it. And I said, damn, they're going to take me to prison or something. And but they didn't. They said, we're glad you're back, Mr. Brennett. Your interstate compacts went through, and there's a flight for you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We've had it reserved. Okay. Put me in the back of an Impala with a couple of other probation officers. They take me down to the airport, and I'm still in these just nasty old clothes that I got arrested in last time. I still got them. Hair down to here, sores all over my face. And they take me to the TSA and say, here's your boarding pass, it's gate G9. It's just like a dream. I just can't even imagine. I can't fathom what's going on. I just take the boarding pass. I go on through security. I get on I get to G9 somehow, and I had a connection in Denver. I blacked out. Don't even remember any of the trip. I'm sure I was drinking the whole time. I end up in RDU. The stewardess taps me on the shoulder and says, Mr. Bennett, you got to get off the plane. And I wake up, and there's not a soul on there. I've just been in a complete blackout. Everybody else is deboarded. I didn't even know what was going on. I get out. The jetway's like a complete ghost town. Nobody there, and it's just so surreal. I'm walking down, and I'll be dang, there's Denise and Hammond Bennett sitting down there at the end of this thing. I see them, and it's just like yesterday. My heart stops. I can't even face them. I can't even face them after what I've done. I just hang my head, and I'm going up to them and think I'm just not worthy to be your son. I'm not worthy to come back here. I don't deserve this. I can't even believe I'm here. This must be some kind of dream. I'm just a terrible person. And my dad didn't say anything. He's just as solid as a rock. He put his arms around my neck. He kissed me and he said, son, I'm glad you're home. We're going to get you some help. He didn't say, get back there on the back and paint those fences or nail up those fences that are broken, or you've been a bad boy. We've tried to help you so much and you just keep screwing it up. He said, son, I'm glad you're home. We're going to get you some help. Just like the arms of this fellowship. When people come in here and we say, we're glad you're home, we're going to give you some help. We're going to try to help you out. Powerful, powerful thing. I ended up in Samaritan Colony on August 5th, 2014, and they started to teach me some very, very important things. primarily that people had had the same problems I had had with the complete inability to stop drinking. And they had found a solution in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or NA or whatever 12-step fellowship works for you. But they had found a solution through these 12 steps and through the spiritual awakening thing. They gave me some very clear-cut instructions. And the things that Carl read, how it works, that's where it's at. You know, that for me, that just about says it all. But they gave me some clear-cut instructions about being rigorously honest. And for the first time, I was completely open to the idea of going to a recovery home. I had nowhere else to go. My folks may have let me come back and stay there, but I really wanted to do this for the first time. I really wanted to give this thing a shot. I had read through the preambles and looked at the number of second, third, and fourth editions that have been sold, and noticed the drastic increase in span of the fellowship over the years. And I also read that somewhere that 50% of the people that came to AA and really tried got sober at once and remained that way until they died. 50%, half the people that came in and really tried. And I had to say, Seth, you never really tried. You've been to hundreds of AA meetings, but you've never really tried. You've never sat up front. You've never chaired meetings. You never shook hands, made coffee, did the things that you hear in here. You never got a sponsor. So I just really tried. I came into here when I was 30 days sober, and I picked up my 30-day chip. Most amazing feeling on earth. I knew there was a God. I had no urge or compulsion to drink. The thought to drink wasn't there. And I picked up the 30-day chip, biggest deal to me in the world. I looked so forward to this thing. That's been the biggest chip I've gotten, is a 30-day chip. Got the 30-day chip. I heard a man who was sharing in these rooms that something resonated with my spirit. He was sharing his experience. I hear men and women in these rooms all the time share their experience, and although I didn't do the exact same thing, something resonates in here. Something I say, yeah, man, that's me. I could have done that, or I did that. I heard a man doing that, and it was really jiving with me. I said, man, will you be my sponsor? I didn't know how to ask for a sponsor. So I fumbled around a few times. I asked him, well, how do you ask for a sponsor? How do you know if they don't have too much stuff going on? What if they have too many sponsees? Yeah. He says, you just ask him to be your sponsor. I said, well, will you be my sponsor? He said, okay, two things. I'm going to ask you two questions. I want you to answer them tomorrow. Call me in the morning and answer them. Here they are. Number one, are you sick and are you tired of the way you've been living? Have you had enough of the way you've been living? Absolutely. He said, are you willing to go to any length for victory over drugs and alcohol? I said, absolutely. He said, well, think on them. Call me in the morning, let me know. I called him in the morning and said, yeah, I'm ready to do those things. I want to do them. I want to do this. He says, okay, very simple. I'm going to give you some spiritual actions to take. Spiritual in their nature, not too hard. Here they are. When you get up in the morning, say a prayer to your higher power, whatever it might be. God, I love you. Please help me today. I appreciate your help. Amen. Simple. Nothing ceremonious. Simple. Number two, read a devotional literature when you get up in the morning. You have your coffee, you have your smoke, whatever you're doing, read a devotional literature, 24 hours a day, daily reflection, something. Number three, write yourself a gratitude list. Nothing too long, just maybe 8 or 10 items of what you're thankful for that day. Number three, call me and just check in and say, hey, man, I did the deal today. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Number four, go to work. Number five, come to a meeting at night. And number six, meet with me on a weekly basis, and we're going to work these steps. And the objective is the spiritual awakening. And that's what started to happen. My life was revolutionary. It was just completely changed from my entrance into AA when it was underwritten by the willingness to do the things and to carry out the actions that are suggested here. My life started to change drastically. Not as a result of me trying to will those things to change. I had serious health problems, serious legal problems. I brought something else along. I couldn't get a job. I had no idea where I was going to work. I get a job at a landscaping outfit. I just get a job at a landscaping outfit. I get to pick up pine cones for 7, 8, 9 acres, for all days, long periods of time, and sit there with my headphones on in early recovery, listening to Chuck C., Sandy B., Tom Brady Jr., Tom I., Bob D., Mark H. I listen to all these people. I'm just enriched in recovery, and I'm working the steps with my sponsor. The stuff's starting to link up and make a little bit of sense in my head. the mountain of problems that I had created as a result of my drinking and my self-centeredness started to get chipped away slowly but surely. On May the 2nd, 2016, I submitted this document to the state of Montana. For the first time, I had completed almost half of my probation. I was halfway out of the woods. I had paid off all the money, stuff that I just could never even fathom doing. It's a petition for early dismissal. Now, I told you I couldn't make it 30 days. I couldn't make it 30 minutes without violating these things. Here I am, 2 years, not quite 2 years sober. The court writes back. The court finds that termination of the remainder of the sentence is in the best interest of the defendant and society. Termination of the remainder of the sentence will not present any unreasonable risk of danger to the victim of the offense. The defendant has paid all restitution and court-ordered financial obligations in full. It says the defendant's plea of guilty is stricken from the record. The charges relating to the deferred imposition of sentence are dismissed. All records and data relating to the charge are confidential criminal justice information, and public access to that information may be obtained only by a district court order upon good cause shown. I can't do these things. I can't do them. This is AA. This is the power of a fellowship and a higher power. I couldn't stay sober for a day on my own. This life has gotten really good. I've worked the 12 steps. I've gotten the opportunity to work the 12 steps with other men. I didn't know that you don't just read them off the wall. I didn't know that they're outlined in this book with more detail, saying when you're supposed to pray a certain prayer. Maybe we make a list. Maybe we observe some of our past behavior or current behavior. It's all in here. That's just a summary. The sponsor took me through all that. I'm so grateful for him. I had so many situations which I just couldn't see a route through that he helped me with. I'd call him and say, "Man, I'm in this pinch. I don't know what to do. I've really screwed up. I've screwed up a lot in sobriety. I've screwed up a whole lot." And he'd help me through. He'd give me some action to take on how to get through that. I'll finish with this little thing out of 12 and 12 that I kind of like. It just pretty much sums up what's happened in my life as a result of working the 12 steps. It's talking about a spiritual awakening, which is the spiritual awakening, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. The only result is that I finally woke up and say, there is a God. Holy crap, he's working on my behalf. Holy crap, I'm staying sober and I'm not doing it. Something else is helping me. It says maybe there's as many definitions of a spiritual awakening as there are people who have had them, but certainly each genuine one has something in common with all the others. And these things, which they have in common, aren't too hard to understand. When a man or woman has a spiritual awakening, the most important meaning of it is that he has now become able to do, feel, and believe that which he could not do before on his unaided strength and resources alone. He has been granted a gift which amounts to a new state of consciousness and being. He has been set on a path which tells him he is really going somewhere, and that life isn't a dead end, not something to be endured or mastered. In a very real sense, he has been transformed because he has laid hold of a source of strength which in one way or another he had hitherto denied himself. He finds himself in possession of a degree of honesty, tolerance, and unselfishness, peace of mind, and love of which he had thought himself quite incapable. What he has received is a free gift, and yet usually, at least in some small part, he has made himself ready to receive it. And AA and the people in this fellowship are what made me ready to receive that gift. And thank y'all so much.